Good evening, Atlanta. This is Tashika McDaniel. I'm reporting live from my car. I just got a phone call. I was at the gym working out. Next thing you know, I get a phone call saying there has been a major syphilis outbreak at Peter Jefferson High School. At the moment, we have an angry mob of parents outside the school seeking answers as to why such a mass outbreak has occurred amongst the junior and the senior high school students at this school. I will get back to you guys with updates. The more answers I get, the more answers that I will tell you guys. At the moment, I'm stuck in traffic, Atlanta, but when I get to the scene, I will let you guys know what exactly is going on. Again, there has been a major syphilis outbreak amongst junior and high school students at Peter Jefferson High School. Back to you, Bob. And I'm back, and I have answers. I promise you guys answers, and I have answers. The bacteria related to the syphilis outbreak goes by the name Treponema pallidum. This bacteria is categorized as gram-negative. It has spiral shaped and it's motile. A picture of the bacteria. Bob, please upload that picture so we can show our viewers exactly how this gram-negative bacterium looks under the microscope. This bacteria is the spiral-shaped gram-negative bacterium that causes syphilis in humans. This is a parasitic bacteria and relies solely on the human or the host to get its nutrients and to survive. This unicellular worm-like parasite wiggles vigorously under the dark field microscope, which is the microscope that was used to diagnose all these students with the parasite. This motile movement viewed under the microscope is responsible for the endoflagella found between the two membranes of the parasite or the bacteria. So let's just break the bacteria down a little more. Let's provide a picture of this bacteria and I can further explain it. Bob, please show the picture. So from the picture you can see that this bacteria has an inner membrane as well as an outer membrane with a thin peptide diglycan, these science words are really serious, as well as a peptide glycan cell wall. The endoflagella that is responsible for its motile movement, in which I was actually able to view under the microscope, and it's something like I've never seen before. Those motile capabilities are because of the flagella found between the two membranes. And when I say two membranes, I'm referring to the outer and the inner membrane. The bacteria under the scope, it was kind of like a corkscrew shape. Never knew bacteria could be corkscrew shaped. When I think of bacteria, I just think of little small multiplying organisms. But then again, Bob, science, that's not my field, which is why I went into broadcasting. Okay, but let's move forward because I'm trying to educate you guys on what I found out. I found out about syphilis today. I found out about its causative agent, and I learned a lot. So like I promised, I'm going to spread the knowledge to you guys, to you parents here in Atlanta, because this here is serious. The outer membrane is lipid rich and has a small amount of integral membrane proteins. Now, these proteins are the reason why this bacteria can live in the cell, live in a human host for decades. These membrane proteins allows this parasite to basically become invisible to the human immune system. And this is why it took a very long time for a lot of these students to even consider themselves as being susceptible to this disease. A lot of the students were showing no signs. What caused the schools to do such a thorough investigation and encourage a lot of the students to become tested is because the entire basketball team, not one person, not two people, but the entire basketball team tested positive for syphilis. So after doing the thorough investigation of the other students that may have come in contact with the basketball players, or anybody that was on the basketball team, even the towel boy, even the boy who just washes the towels, tested positive for syphilis. Syphilis has been around for quite some time. Syphilis dates back to Christopher Columbus time period. In 1905, the actual bacteria related to syphilis was discovered by two European scientists by the name of Huffman and Scaldin. They found this bacteria in a tissue sample from a patient with syphilis, which wasn't known. Unlike other diseases from that time period, the Christopher Columbus time period, syphilis has not been eradicated. Over a century later, there are still outbreaks of syphilis, so this is an ongoing issue in the medical community, and it more so has a lot to do with the simple fact that the bacteria related to syphilis, it's hard to culture this bacteria in the lab because of its strong reliancy on its host. Scientists have yet to successfully culture. Let's talk about this bacteria, because I want to really break it down to you guys, just because this is an educating opportunity. I've learned some new things today, and I want to share those things with you all, like I always do. Whenever I gain new knowledge, I come here, I have my notes written up, and I share the knowledge, hoping that it can at least reach one person. If it reaches one person, then I've done my job. So let's talk more about this bacteria. This parasite, it can't exist outside of the human body, and it cannot produce the necessary proteins that it needs to survive. So this bacteria relies solely on its human host. Why? Because of its small genome, this bacterium lacks genes that are necessary for several metabolic functions. This chemoheterotrope has very little metabolic capacity. Well, metabolic capability. It lacks the enzymes needed for the citric acid cycle, as well as the enzymes that are needed to carry out oxidative phosphorylation. Instead, this bacterium relies solely on glycolysis to get its energy. This bacterium can survive several decades in an untreated host. It has a small genome, which is why it can't produce fatty acids. It can't produce. So that is the main. Carbohydrates is the main energy source. Okay. So as I stated, because it lacks these specific genes, it can't synthesize fatty acids. It can't synthesize amino acids, and it's dependent on the host. Without the host, this parasite cannot survive. Unfortunately, these teenagers are providing a housing unit for this parasite. And another fact about this parasite is they can't survive in the absence of nutrients or exposure to oxygen and heat. So that's major. Okay, I just got a correction. Earlier I stated that the bacteria wasn't able to synthesize amino acids. Let me correct myself. It's not able to synthesize most amino acids. I don't want to give you guys false information, but again, this is new to me, and I'm still learning as I go along. Thank you, Bob. It was corrected. Okay, moving on. Host. The antigen variation of the TPRK proteins contribute to the immune system invasion. And also the shortage of integral outer membrane proteins helps the bacteria survive long periods of time, causing it to be invisible to the immune system. So those outer membrane proteins are what we would consider the virulent factor, because if your immune system doesn't detect it, your body really, as I stated earlier, this bacterium can survive for decades in an untreated host. Usually those infected with syphilis are treated with antibiotics such as doxycycline, penicillin, and other antibiotics that can target this bacteria and rid it from the host. This bacterium can survive for decades in an untreated host. Luckily, with the advancement of medicine, if you catch syphilis in its primary, secondary stage, you can pretty much get rid of it if you treat it with the necessary antibiotics. However, in the tertiary phase or tertiary stage, the disease becomes a lot more serious. Not to say that it's not serious in the first two phases. However, in the tertiary phase, the disease attacks the central nervous system. In the tertiary phase or stage of syphilis, you now have the infection being spread through your bloodstream. So the infection is able to get to other organs in your body and also cause damage. Once it gets to that tertiary stage, the curability percentage is not as large if we are able to treat infected individuals during the primary and secondary stage. The next image is a photo taken of the first student tested for syphilis at Peter Jefferson High School. So a lot of you may say, oh, Miss McDaniel, you usually cover crime stories, or you usually cover very extreme, dramatic, political stories. But I chose this segment in particular because this is very important. Anything that affects young adults, pregnant women is a big concern. And I just feel like we should spread the knowledge of not even just saying this bacteria, but STIs in general. I think that there needs to be more education, there needs to be more preventative measures, and if you don't know about it, you just don't know. Just like me, I didn't have a lot of knowledge about the bacteria that causes syphilis. This is new to me, but it was a learning experience. However, if we educate our children on preventative measures, how often they should be tested, then we can prevent something like this from happening in any other schools in Atlanta or in any other part of the world. So this is why what's important to talk about today, because prevention is greater than treatment. Because if you prevent, there's no need to even seek treatment. So I just want parents to talk to their kids about ways to protect themselves, and just being more careful and educating ourselves on these STIs. It can happen to anyone. As I stated, it can be passed to an unborn child, causing issues in the developmental stages of the pregnancy. So it's not just, oh, this can happen to these young adults at this high school. It can happen to anyone. And anything that affects my people of Atlanta is dear to me. This is Tashika McDaniel, and I'm reporting live from WXYZ Atlanta. See you next time.